Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Thorek Ironbrow. So Thorek starts off at Karak Zorin, which is the same location he starts off in Mortal Empires in Warhammer 2, but in the Vortex campaign he starts off in Lustria. Now, in my opinion, this is the most interesting of the Dwarf Legendary Lord starts, because there is just a lot going on in this particular campaign, at least in comparison to the other Dwarf Lords. So if you're looking for an interesting Legendary Lord to get into the Dwarfs, I would highly recommend starting with Thorek Ironbrow. And the great thing about him now is that if you own any of the other Dwarf Lords, you'll be able to get access to Thorek Ironbrow because he is an FLC Lord, so that's really good now. You don't have to own Warhammer 1 and 2 in order to get access to him. You just need to either own Warhammer 1 or own the King and the Warlord DLC to get him. Now, in terms of the varied enemies in this area, you're pitted up against the Greenskins here to begin with, but that is really just a training ground here. Very easy to take them out because Thorek is extremely powerful. And then you've got vampires over here, you got wood elves, lizard men, Skaven, there's demons not too far away, you got tomb kings over here, more vampires, more tomb kings over here, beastmen, lots of different enemies, Bretonians over here. Lots of different, and high elves down here, more demons, if you want to go that fast down, more demons down this way. So lots of different enemies, very much a varied campaign. You're not going to be fighting the same enemy over and over and over again. In addition to that, this campaign has got some really good scripted events that occur to allow you to mix things up. So for example, fairly early on, you'll get a Confederation offer to confederate with Karak Azul. Karak Azul does have a tendency of getting wiped out reasonably early, so if you leave it too late, they won't be able to confederate with you anymore, and having a fragmented empire can definitely hurt you. But Cazador Dragonslayer does have kind of a unique trait a little bit, so getting access to him, he's like a semi-legendary lord, like, not really, but it's just a little bit interesting to get him. But the other Dwarf Legendary Lords don't get access to Confederation missions in the same way that he does. So, another thing is talking about his artifact vault. Of the Dwarf and Legendary Lords, Thorek Ironbrow is the only one that has like a unique campaign mechanic, and that comes down to his artifact vault. Now, it's not too mechanic heavy, but the way it works is that there's various bonuses and items in here that you can obtain, and in order to get them, and these are permanently obtained, you just need to get access to these two relics. To get access to a relic, simply click on one of them. It shows you the location of where that relic is. You need to either form a military alliance with someone that owns this settlement or capture it yourself. Then you need to obtain two such items. So we see this one here is right there. And this one is all the way is at Mount Gunbad. So that is where Snick starts. And once you've got that, then you've got access to that new ancestor hero. So it'll probably take a little while before you start activating some of these, since some of these are a little bit far away, but it gives you some goals to go for right away, and you can see that most of these are pretty secure within the mountains, which is typically speaking the ideal location for dwarf holds. Now, Karak Zorn as a start position is really good because it's one of the richest settlements for the dwarves in the game, and it's also a really good defensive position. So if you find yourself with a lot of enemies, they have to get through Karak Zorn in order to get to sort of the soft underbelly here, but also at the other end of the mountain, once you secure this area here, you can secure both ends, and then it only really becomes vulnerable to the underway stance, which you can't really jump from here to there anyway. So it's a very good defensive position, which is especially good for dwarves. And then of course, you know, you got access to gold, you've got a really good landmark here, and then reasonably easy access to getting to Karak if you manage to confederate Karak Azul. Overall, this is one of my favorite dwarf campaigns. I'm not a huge fan of the dwarves, but this is going to be my favorite of the dwarf campaigns in Total War Warhammer 3. And I think that's all we really need to talk about with this campaign. I highly recommend it. This is, in terms of the sweet spot for difficulty, I would probably recommend it on either very hard or legendary, but at the end of the day, you know what you can handle and what campaign you like. But I think for optimal enjoyment, this is one of the you want to bump up the difficulty to get the most out of it, because he's a very powerful legendary lord, and I find with very powerful legendary lords, if you put it on too easy, it gets a bit boring. You've got all the tools you need to take everyone that is going to come at you, so, you know, give the AI the tools that they need to put up a bit of a challenge. That's in my opinion, but it's entirely up to you. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Thorek Ironbrow, which legendary lord you'd like me to cover next. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.